In this video, we're going to discuss the organizational profile, which is your bronze application. This is your bronze application that you fill out for the Bronze Quality Award. Becomes that application, that 5-page application, becomes the first 5 pages of your Silver Quality Award application. It does, however, need to be updated. So make sure you don't just copy and paste your Bronze Quality Award answers into the Silver. You do have to update, not every one of them, but a bunch of them do have to be updated. In this video, we're going to go through every single question, each one by one, making sure that we understand exactly what we're looking for. In a separate video, we discussed that there are 3 types of questions throughout the entire Silver Quality Award application. There is the who question, and by the way, there's only one who question, and it appears here in the org profile. Who are your customers? And then there are what questions. What do your customers want? What are you doing? What is your mission? What are you giving them? What are the criteria that your customers want? And then how questions. And how questions are all process questions. In the org profile, there is one who question, and then the rest of the organizational profile is made up of what questions. So it's one who, and it's all what questions. In sections 1 through 6 of the Quality Award, Silver Quality Award application, there's all how questions. There's a handful, 2, 3, 4, maybe a half dozen what questions, which we'll get into in 2.1. But most of the questions in sections 1 through 6 are all process questions. How do you do it? But here in your profile, the question is, what are you doing? What do your customers want? And that's what we're going to be answering here in the org profile, which again is an updated version of your Bronze Quality Award. So that's what you should do first, is go grab your Bronze Quality Award application, have that out in front of you as we go through each question and start updating, adding the things that you need to add. Again, not every question will need to be updated, but a good majority of them will be. So here we go. Let's get into the org profile. I want to just quickly touch on this. I think I should do a separate video. I'll do a separate video on the history of the Quality Award program, because it's such a fascinating story. And I think it is so relevant and such a wonderful thing to understand where this Quality Award program even came from. But this quote I think is really great because it really highlights the attitude of the American president, Ronald Reagan. He is the one who asked for the information regarding competition with Japan, which is how Malcolm Baldrige, the founder of this program, started on this whole journey. And this kind of solidifies the President Ronald Reagan's attitude towards this. He says, America's economic strength depends on industry's ability, on American industry ability to improve productivity and quality, and to remain on the cutting edge of technology. And that's why this program, the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award Program, is so important. And I would argue, as I've heard so many others argue as well, that this Quality Award Program is the best program for senior care. It is the standard program. It is shining a light so bright that is so wonderful on senior care. Just absolutely love this quote. I love this program. And I think in today's environment, there is nothing better than really, really trying to make sure that we are providing all the things that we intend to be providing our residents here in senior care. I'm not going to go over all of this. This is kind of the workshop thing. I'm just going to point this out to you, but I'm going to point it out as we go. Each question in the entire application has more than one question. You can see like this question here, what are your main healthcare service offerings? That is one question. What is the relative importance to each of your success? That is the second question. What mechanism do you use to deliver your healthcare services? That is the third question. I should also point out that I did not update this example, and so this example is just an example and doesn't actually exist in the application. At least this question no longer is there. They've reworded the question, and they've also, when it comes to what is the relative importance to your success, they've also added some additional information that they're after. So this is just an example question. And then let me just get right into here. These are the 8 words that you should never say on an application, whether it's the bronze application, the silver application, or the gold application. I would argue that perhaps these 8 words shouldn't be used at all in our business. And it doesn't even matter what business you're in. I think, especially for senior care and healthcare in general, these questions will get us in, or these words get us in more trouble than they're worth. And these are all soft, reactive, unplanned, informal types of words. So how do you listen to your residents? Well, sometimes that sometimes is not helpful. How do you ensure that your quality metrics, your clinical quality metrics are good? Well, usually, right? Like typically, sometimes, or we're going to, what we should do? We want to lose all those words. So there's more than 8, but especially these 8. These are the most common words I see in an application, and they're the 8 words I do not want to see. So with peace and love, write these down. Try to avoid the, see, I even just used it. I said try. How dare me? Don't try. Avoid using these words. It's so easy to use these words. Don't use these words. Here, I'm laying it down, putting it in the safe. There it is. I'm going to post it on the refrigerator. Now it's law. That's how it works. Once it's posted on the refrigerator, it's the law. Do not use those words. Okay, let's get right into it. Here we go. Question 1, P1A1. Question P1A1 actually has 3 questions. This is question number 1, just like in the example. What are your main healthcare service offerings? This is number 2. What is the relative importance to each to your success? And this is number 3. What are the delivery methods for your healthcare services? So you can see it's 1 question, but it's broken up into 3 questions, and you do need to answer all 3 parts to get full credit for this question. And so the first question is, what are your main healthcare service offerings? I want to draw your attention to this word key. This word key is synonymous with this word main, and they both mean most important. That's what we're after. We are after finding out what the most important services you offer, because let's be honest, I'm sure that in your home, most homes, many homes, provide more than one service. You have a long-term care unit. They have a short-term care unit. You have a dementia unit. You offer palliative care, maybe whatever, right? So you might have more than one service offering. Maybe you're an assisted living center. Maybe you have a bunch of different service offerings. This question really gets to the heart of what are your main healthcare service offerings, your most important, and what is the relative importance to each? What I want to show you with this question is I put down 1, 2, 3. That's a clear indicator that I don't think that it's possible to have more than 3 main service offerings. You can offer more than 3 service offerings, but most important to your organization, it's hard to have 4, 5, 6 main service offerings. Generally speaking, the bulk of our care, bulk of our services can be probably categorized in 1, 2, up to maybe 3 different categories. And for the application purpose, it is better to have less. It is better to identify the top 2 or 3 services than it is to try to identify the 4, 5, 6, only because throughout the application, we're going to be asking you constantly about the services you offer. And if you have 6 things written down, we're going to expect that you talk about all 6 things. And that's going to be very challenging as we get into the nitty-gritty into the application. So just take my word for it. 2, 3 at tops at best, 3 services at best. So let's just say, for an example, that we have an AL, we have an assisted living section of our building, and then we also offer short-term rehab And we offer long-term care, skilled nursing, right? So we offer long-term care as well. Of those three, those are our three main service offerings. What is the relative importance to their success? All that simply means is put them in order. What is the most important? And the best way to think of this is through a percentage or a dollar amount. Dollar amount's a little more challenging to do, but let's say a percentage. Let's take the percentage of the residents. Let's use that as a barometer of determining what's the most important. So for us, our most important is long-term care because it makes up 70% of our population. 70% of our residents are long-term care. So they are the most important to our success just because they make up the largest group that we serve in our center. The second largest group is our short-term rehab at 20%. 20% of our residents are here for short-stay rehab purposes. And that would leave us with an AL. I should let you know that we have a very small 10-bed AL attached to our building. And so really it only makes up 10%. 10%, it's a 100-bed building. Only 10% of our residents are assisted living. This is what we're talking about. We're asking you, what are your main healthcare service offerings and what's the relative importance to each? This is the type of answer we're looking for. Like, of the three service offerings that we offer, long-term care, which makes up 70% of our population, is our most important. Short-term rehab, which makes up 20% of our population, is the second most important. And finally, our 10-bed AL unit is the third most important at 10%. That's the way that we would, as examiners, anticipate reading this answer. It's the way we'd want you to answer this question. This third question is a little tricky. And it's tricky because I want you to consider taking out the word what and using the word and replacing it with the word how, which is very interesting because once we get into the application between sections 1 and section 6, you're going to see me constantly crossing out the word how and using the word what. I'll take out the word how and I'll go, what process? Because how questions are always process questions. In this question, what are your delivery methods is really a how question. It's how do you deliver your healthcare services to your residents? And for us, when it comes to long-term care, one of our hows is through skilled nursing. Skilled nursing. That's an S. Skilled nursing. Rehabilitation services is through rehab services. And by the way, we outsource. We partner with a company that provides our rehab services. And that's what we're looking for. If you do partner with somebody else, if you have a collaborator or partner, some other vendor who's helping you deliver the services, this is where you would tell us. At XYZ nursing home, the delivery methods we use to deliver our healthcare services for skilled nursing or for long-term care is through skilled nursing, person-centered care. We outsource with a rehabilitation company to help us provide our rehab services, and we, use whatever services in our AL to provide AL services. We use we have nursing services. Maybe you have home health services. I know a lot of ALs are using home health services to provide one-on-one nursing care where you're able to keep a higher acuity level resident as in an AL by having some services come in, like home health services come in and provide some additional care and oversight to those residents. So again, even home health services could be one of the delivery methods you use to provide healthcare services. That is question P1A1, and it sets the context for your whole application. This is where we first get the idea, the understanding of what it is you do. What are you doing? What are your service offerings? Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't, if you have any questions at all. By the way, this is one of those questions that generally does not need to be updated from your bronze application, except for this question. This question doesn't exist at the bronze level, but these two questions are at the bronze level, so you just have to add this third piece. All right, off to the next question.